First off, we start with President Bola Tinubu, who has postponed his planned trip to South Africa and Angola as he awaits further security briefings on the kidnapped Kebbi schoolgirls and Monday's attack on worshippers in Kwara State. He was due to leave Abuja this Wednesday for the G20 Leaders Summit in Johannesburg before heading to Luanda for the AU-EU Summit. A State House statement says the attacks, including the abduction of 25 schoolgirls and the assault on members of the Christ Apostolic Church CAC in Eruku, prompted the suspension. No new date has been announced. The president has ordered additional military and police deployment to Eruku and the entire Ekiti local government area following a request from the Kwara State governor, and directed police to pursue the attackers. He's now awaiting reports from Vice President Kashim Shettima, who was in Kebbi, as well as updates from the police and the Department of State Services. Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu has again given assurances that the federal government will ensure the rescue and safe return of the abducted schoolgirls from the Government Girls Comprehensive Secondary School, Maga, in Kebbi State. The Vice President Kashim Shettima delivered the president's message during a visit to Birnin, Kebbi. Arise correspondent Suleiman Nasser tells us more.
Vice President Kashim Shettima arrived in Kebbi, the capital of Kebbi State, to commiserate with the government and people of the state over the unfortunate abduction of the Maga school girls in the Nkowasagu local government area. He was in company of the national chairman of the All Progressive Congress, APC, and other top government functionaries. On his arrival, the Vice President interacted with key stakeholders, including traditional rulers, and where he described the incident as unfortunate and commended the sacrifice and effort of Nigerian security forces. Shettima says the president's priority is the safe return of all the abducted schoolgirls.
The president is deeply troubled by this tragedy. He shares your anguish, and he has sent me to assure you that this is not a moment for politics. This grief transcends party lines, geography, and identity. This is a time for unity, for compassion, and for firm resolve in the face of evil. Your Excellency will honor and appreciate and take care of the family of the Vice Principal of the Government Girls Comprehensive Secondary School. He paid the ultimate price.
Kebbi State Governor Nasir Idris commended President Tinubu for his contribution and support, assuring that his administration is complementing effort of the federal government.
It's a very sad day for us, because when you look at the girls, the very young girls who are in school to pursue knowledge, and unfortunately these notorious people went to that school in the night and abducted them. Our prayer is just to see these our daughters came out soon.
20 school girls were abducted at the Government Girls Comprehensive Secondary School, Maga, in the Nkowasagu, but 2 of the abducted school girls were reported to have escaped, leaving 24 girls in captivity. Suleiman Nasser, Arise News.
In the meantime, the Information Minister, Mohammed Idris, has also been providing updates on the abduction of the schoolgirls, the killing of Brigadier General Musa Uba in Borno, as well as the church attack in Eruku in Kwara State. Idris explains that while the incidents are painful reminders of the security challenges facing the country, the administration of President Bola Tinubu is determined more than ever to win the battle and deliver the last blow on the terrorists.
Let it also be known that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has put our nation's security apparatus on the highest alert ever and has deployed them to actively pursue and eliminate these terrorists, bandits, and criminal elements wherever they may be in Nigeria. Our security forces have also been mandated to swiftly rescue the abducted Kebbi schoolgirls and reunite them with their families. Similarly, the President has also directed that all those who have been abducted in the Ruku also be reunited with their families. Against the backdrop of threats to our national unity and geographical firmament, the federal government of Nigeria notes with growing concern the divisive and narrow rhetoric seeking to frame the nation's security challenges along sectarian terms.
A United States Congressman, Riley Moore, yesterday confirmed meeting with the federal government delegation led by the National Security Advisor, Nuhu Ribadu, as part of diplomatic efforts to douse the mounting tension between both nations over alleged genocide against Christians in Nigeria. Apart from meeting with Moore, the Nigerian delegation, this day gathered, has also been scheduled to meet with some White House officials, security chiefs, and several other lawmakers on the matter. A statement by Moore, seen by this day, listed other members of the entourage from Nigeria to include the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi, Chief of Defense Staff, General Olufemi Oluyede, Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, and Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, Bianca Ojukwu. Also, the federal government says the recent statements by the U.S. President Donald Trump and officials on Nigeria's security situation have inadvertently emboldened opportunistic, violent groups and encouraged them to stage renewed attacks on soft targets to exploit international narratives of alleged Christian genocide. At a media briefing, Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, clarified that there is no Christian genocide in Nigeria and that the federal government is working to rescue the abducted Kebbi schoolgirls. He says senior government officials like himself, who are Christians working in the federal government, need to set the record straight, noting that insurgency structures had been significantly degraded before the latest wave of commentary from Washington emboldened anti-state actors. Akume said what Nigeria needs from global partners like the United States is collaboration through intelligence, technology, and equipment, not public labels that distort the country's security realities. He said appointments by the Tinubu administration have been balanced between Christians and Muslims, urging citizens to love their country more.
Nigeria does not require foreign troops. What we need is targeted support from partners, especially the United States, the areas of intelligence cooperation, technology and military equipment support for advanced engagement against the insurgents. Impact of recent U.S. pronouncements. Recent pronouncements from the United States have inadvertently emboldened opportunistic violent groups seeking to exploit international narratives and make bold statements by attacking soft targets. Before these statements, insurgency structures had been significantly degraded and reduced to isolated banditry. This resurgence underscores the vital need for collaboration, not public labeling, between Nigeria and our great ally, the United States of America.
In other news, the Federation Account Allocation Committee, FAC, has disbursed a total sum of 2.094 trillion naira to the federal, state and local governments as Federation allocation for the month of October 2025. The disbursement, which was made during the monthly meeting of the committee in Abuja Wednesday, was from a gross total of 2.934 trillion naira garnered during the month of October. The shared amount comprised gross statutory revenue of 1.376 trillion naira, value-added tax of 670.303 billion naira and 47.870 billion naira from electronic money transfer levy, bringing the total distributable amount for the month to 2.094 trillion naira, a statement issued by Director, Information and Public Relations, Federal Ministry of Finance, Mohammed Manga, stated. The gross revenue available from VAT for the month of October was 719.827 billion naira as against 872.630 billion naira distributed in the preceding months, signifying a decrease of 152.803 billion naira. All right, those are your news headlines, trending this morning or making the headlines this morning. Dr. Bati, you're most welcome. Vimba, your take on these stories with regards to, of course, the security situation, the response of the president, the meeting of the high power delegation to the United States of America, and if you want to touch on FAC allocation as well.
Well, very quickly on FAC allocation, I think it all ties in with everything else we're discussing, because if the economic safety net is not securing and capturing majority of citizens, then unfortunately we begin to see some of these radical activities, acts of criminality happening around the country. So we continue to put pressure on the governors to ensure that their FAC must benefit the people. But let's take the conversation back to, the president doing the expected thing, the right thing, to acknowledge the fact that there's a security crisis currently in the nation, and it would be in bad taste, in poor taste for him to be out of the country while we're facing some of the challenges we're currently facing. So on that, of course, we must commend the presidency for doing the right thing. Now, going deeper into it, I know there were some concerns raised, and I continue to raise their concerns around some of the language being used by the presidency. Yesterday, the word depressed was used to describe the president's state of mind. It later evolved to deeply troubled. But it's interesting to see that the Minister of Information is using, stronger words, resolve. He's using more active words. So I think at a time like this, we want to see the leader of the nation speak in more firm terms, not the use of terms that allude to some state of emotional instability. We need words that inspire confidence and that paint a picture of strength and that inspire us to believe that we are in control of this and we'll get ahead of this. I know I'm so glad that Dr. Bati is here because he's somebody who has been in the arena when it comes to choosing the words that are communicated during a time of crisis. Now, Goodluck Jonathan was very well known for always showing empathy, but there was empathy with strength. President Buhari was known for using strong, almost military-related language. Now we're seeing the Tinubu administration naturally would want to show empathy, but in showing empathy, let's ensure that a message of strength remains, the strong message that is sent across. Now, what is happening in Kebbi State? What is happening in Kwara? Yesterday, the Secretary General of the Federation had released a document that outlined what he felt were the realities of the security crisis we have. Northwest being banditry, Northeast being terrorist extremist activities. However, when it comes to the incidents in Kebbi State, the abduction of the girls, the attack on the church, have we determined whether these are acts of terrorism or acts of criminality? We have to be very important in defining, because there's a very clear difference between the two activities. And over the past decade, we've seen a softening in the use of terminology in reportage, and that there are several factors that contributed to that. But we saw the word terrorism become interchanged with banditry, become interchanged with insurgency, assailants, and so forth. And so what that has done is it has created a crime-terror nexus in reporting. This is very dangerous because a crime-terror nexus also exists on the ground, where you have extremists who are now perpetuating acts associated with banditry and criminality, and vice versa. Everything is now intertwined, and it all has a historical antecedent. If you look at the Western Sudan, for example, pre-19th century, trade, this is why I started with the economics, Ayo. Trade was dominated inland. It was trans-Saharan trade. When the colonialists came, our trade shifted to be Atlantic-facing, and that's when the coast became important. There was conflict between inland and coastal communities because there was the competition for resources. If you fast forward several years later and you exacerbate that with the burst of extremism that happened, with what happened in Libya in 2011, we also have to put it in economic context, because as those events were happening in Libya, in the Sahel, there was one of the most severe droughts that has ever happened. That's 2010 to 2012. So you now have more people moving further south in pursuit of greater land, more fertile lands, climate change, and so forth. Then you have to also look at the element of MACBAN. And remember, MACBAN was representing pastoralists and so forth. Again, we have to look at that evolution in reporting, where it was farmer-herder, and it evolved, and the conversation went out of there. But you have to remember that from those communities, there were splinter groups, some of which are now on a list to potentially be designated terrorist groups as well, that now had to procure arms, sophisticated arms, to protect themselves. So I think in all of this, what I'm saying is that it is important now for us, and it has now become clear, even if you watch the interview with the Minister of Foreign Affairs on Piers Morgan, we now have to be very clear about defining what is an act of terrorism and what is an act of criminality, because we are now at a nexus, and our inability to dissect the data accordingly is now leading to a misinterpreted representation globally, because we are now communicating with the world. It's no longer about communicating to ourselves here in Nigeria.
Absolutely. All right, Dr.
Let me start by starting on a note of congratulations. Today is the birthday of Lady Maiden Ibro, the publisher of Guardian newspapers, November 20. It is also, on the other side, the day that we remember the death of our husband, Mr. Alex Uruemu Ibro, publisher of the Guardian newspapers, a major entrepreneur, one of the leading lights in Nigeria. So for the Ibro family today, we congratulate Mrs. Ibro on her birthday. We also mourn the passing again, as we remember Mr. Alex Uruemu Ibro. Today is also the birthday of President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, President of Nigeria, the only man in the history of this country to date who has been deputy governor, vice president, and president of Nigeria, and whom God has also blessed with the grace of being an elder statesman, whom Nigerians are now saying, oh, this is a man who did so well. We wish we still had Goodluck Jonathan in government. And then, of course, beyond all of that, we congratulate the Alake of Egbaland, the paramount ruler of the Egba Nation. I use the word Egba Nation advisedly because the Egba Nation was created in 1830 after the collapse of the Oyo Kingdom and the Egba Federation, emerged. And the Alake, who is there now, is the direct descendant of the first Alake of Egbaland, Okukene the First. He now is Okukene the Fourth, and he has been on that throne for the past 20 years. Yesterday, we all gathered at the St. Paul's Cathedral in Ake, and also at the palace, the Ake Palace, to celebrate our monarch, who has been in charge of the Egba Nation for the past 20 years, and under whose watch Egba Nation has thrived. Egba Nation has expanded to such an extent that the people of Lagos are in fact coming to grab territory from Egba Nation. But it's okay, I don't want to criticize the Lagos people. They were well represented yesterday. Oba Akiolu sent a very strong delegation. And we are in-laws. I
was going to say that.
So I don't want to criticize you people. Before the Kabiyesi of Lagos, the Eleko of Eko, the Olowo of Ofeko will say, I'm withdrawing my daughter for you criticizing us. But we celebrate Oba Gbadebo Aremo Adedotun Okukene the fourth on a successful reign. And the Egba people are very happy with him. And we wish him many more years of achievement and of service, not just to the Egba nation, but also to Nigeria and humanity. We had a good time yesterday. Good food, good church service. Brother Bishop Adekunle, he went on and on and on, but you know, it was a glorious occasion. In the same manner in which the Egba Kingdom, Egba nation, has been very glorious. Now, to now go to the political issues. I think it was a demonstration of wisdom that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu decided not to go to Luanda, Angola, for the AU-EU summit, Monday, Tuesday, and also the G20 summit. He said he's staying back to be able to address issues with security. The Vice President, Kashim Shettima, had been sent to Kebbi to commiserate with the people. But the president is now spending the time to listen to feedback. And he has given express directives to persons that, look, you have to deal with this situation and you must act. Well, the rub of it is that the president will seem to have said the right things. We have had this before and again. Now, under President Jonathan, there was what was called the Safe School Initiative. The key persons in that initiative, apart from government, were former Prime Minister, as he then was, Gordon Brown, Dr. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, and from civil society, we had Prince Nduka Obagbena. So as far back as 2013, 2014, the Nigerian government had been saying, we will make the schools secure. This was on the heels of the Chibok girls incident. But when we now had President Buhari, we had the Dapchi girls, we had other incidents. The question to ask is that, yes, in 2025, President Tinubu is giving the same directives. Why is it that since 2013, 2014, we have not been able to deal with the problems? People have given various analyses. They have said the security agencies are complicit. They have said that intelligence is provided, but nobody acts on intelligence. After all, President Tinubu himself said the incident in Maga, in Kebbi State, there was prior intelligence. But at the end of the day, nobody did anything about it. So why is this disconnect between intelligence and real operation? The gap is in terms of interpretation. Some people say the military establishment, the security agencies, they just collect money. They don't do anything. Some people say, you know, some of the major stakeholders have been compromised so that even when intelligence is provided, nothing is done. So, but it's good for President Tinubu to say, I'm staying back at home. But staying back at home is not enough. What is the result? What will be the outcome? And now very quickly, the president has sent a delegation to the United States. Well, fine. I see a lot of skewed narrative coming from the United States. But the people that went there, chief of this, national security advisor, inspector general of police, who did they meet? The report says they met people from House of Reps. Yeah, Riley Moore, Honorable Riley Moore, was told by President Trump to do the investigation, and Tom Cole, the chairman of the Appropriations Committee, to look into the issue. Is that the level at which Nigeria should be engaging with the United States? The Nigerian president is sending a delegation to go and meet House of Reps members. That's why Trump can sit back and say, these Nigerians, they think this thing is a joke.
And a freshman member at that.
Yes,
first term.
All these small people, that's the people we are going to talk with. So if President Tinubu visits the US now, they will ask a House of Rep member to come and receive him. The whole situation is insulting, And that's why I've argued that there's an issue with our foreign policy process. No serious government will allow this kind of insult to Nigeria. If we are going to address the problem, we should meet at the same level. That's what diplomacy is all about. You are sending our Inspector General of Police, our National Security Advisor, to go and meet some small people in the House of Reps. I think that is very embarrassing. I can say a lot more, but let me leave it at that rate. Now, the third story you brought is about FAC allocation.
Yeah.
The big issue is that we keep hearing this FAC allocation, states collecting money. The question is, what do they do with the money? What is the outcome? What is the impact on the lives of the people? Inflation, we are told, has gone down to 16.05%. This inflation, economists say, oh, it will take time before you see the impact. We have been waiting since the first quarter. We have not seen that impact. So we can only celebrate more money for the states, for the governors, only when we see the impact. That, in my view, is the point.
Absolutely. Okay, so I have a question this morning for the president, and very direct, based on security situation in Nigeria currently. Will the president be willing to resign if within a specific or defined timeline he's unable to deal with the security issues in Nigeria? I ask this question because in 2014, messages and old ex-posts by the president has resurrected based on his persistent and continuous criticism at the time being in opposition of the President Goodluck Jonathan administration based on the security situation at the time. Not only did he criticize, which was in his right as the opposition, but he also called for his resignation, stating the fact that he was unable to fix insecurity in Nigeria. And so I want to put the question to him, since this was his opinion in 2014, does he still stand by that? If the president is unable to fix the security or insecurity in Nigeria, would he be willing to resign? Or would he be willing to step back from running for a second term if Nigeria continues to be as insecure as it is today? I say this because we have had in only a few days, 72 hours, we haven't yet seen our girls who were abducted when they went to school to learn in Kebbi State. All we are hearing is condolence messages, entourage or delegation sent to visit the state. We don't want that. We want solution. What Nigerians are asking for today is solutions. Can we have leadership? Can we have a president who is able to provide security for the Nigerian people? That's what Nigerians are calling for this morning. 72 hours has gone past, and in that time, we've had another report of an incident in Ekuru in Kwara State. In that time, we have had an incident in Sokoto State, midnight of Tuesday. We have had reports that security agents were not available. In fact, it happened in Kabunga, Kwara local government area of Sokoto State, and was said that they were firing, indiscriminately with no security operative able to manage the situation. In that time, Rabiu Kwakwanso has come out to talk about how banditry has increased in Kano State and they become more emboldened. It's an open show of insecurity and impunity, because unfortunately we haven't seen consequences measurable to the level of insecurity. And so that's the question for us this morning, because if we have a government, the government must be accountable. And if the president himself called for the resignation of President Goodluck Jonathan in 2014, I think the honor would be for him as well to abide by his words, that if a president is not able to provide security for his people, then perhaps it's time for him to rethink leadership in an honorable manner. The second part of the insecurity conversation this morning is on the long stay, or the release by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, SGF, Senator Dr. George Akume, where he detailed and said that he had to come out, and we played a clip from that he had to come out to speak as a Christian in government. And the reason why, even though he spoke well, and he said, oh, there's no Christian genocide, what we have, and he dimensioned the issues even geopolitically as to what each region is facing. However, I find it quite difficult to find this credible, because again and again, the government has shown a lack of understanding or a grasp of what is really going on in the country, especially with the Middle Belt and what's happening with Christians in Nigeria. Why have I said this? When it was time to provide facts and figures, we saw the interview with the Foreign Minister and Piers Morgan, and he struggled to give us a true picture of what is happening. If there is no understanding of the issues, how can you then boldly come out to say that it's not happening? What we have consistently asked for is not to sit in Abuja or to say that, okay, as SGF, as a Christian, I don't feel it or it's not happening. Listen to the constituents, the people whom this is actually happening to, and hear what they are saying. Up until now, I said earlier this week that the US Congress has opened an inquiry and asked people to come forward to share their experiences. The Nigerian Senate has, till this moment, even though they released statements or just emphasized and given strong statements around the fact that they were going to deal with this, has not yet launched or instituted an inquiry to hear from the people who are the most affected. However, in different quarters, the people whom these affect directly have come out to say that there is a Christian genocide. From the Christian Association of Nigeria, from the PFN, the Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria, from pastors who live, religious leaders who live in these areas, have come out to say that their people have been killed for many years and nothing has been done to arrest the situation. Yet we have government officials who are not able to give us verified data, credible data, come out to say, oh, it's not happening. If you cannot show an understanding of the issues, or you cannot come out to give Nigeria true data of what is going on, and unfortunately, you don't have the justification to come out to say or to deny that it is happening, until we see a seriousness shown, even in the area of investigation or an inquiry, or to listen to the cries and the voices of the people who have come out to say that, yes, they've been killing us deliberately for a number of years. I'm sorry, we will not take that, and I cannot take that in terms of the SGF statement. Finally, on FAC, I believe it's high time that we also placed a demand on the governments and local government chairmen to assign maybe the commissioners of information or a designated spokesperson to give an account of how the money is spent. We cannot continue to make announcements of, FAC allocation under this administration, who have said that they've done well in the area of revenue generation. And so that has affected how much money goes to the government, state governments and local government areas. But we do not see an appreciable impact on the lives of the people. In the spirit of transparency and accountability, I'm calling that the state governors and the local government chairman actually come out and speak as to what the money is used for and how the measurable impact on their people.